The Honourable David Carter.
Mr. Chairman, it's a pleasure to take a call in this particular debate, and particularly in light of the very good report tabled by the Primary Production Select Committee, ably chaired, I might add, by my colleague Shane Arden. I think it's a great pity that when we're talking about the most significant industry to the New Zealand economy, we have a Labor opposition that's not prepared to take a call. And I think for those thousands of listeners out there today, they need to note the interest shown by the Labor opposition in the portfolio of agriculture and forestry. But I guess it's not surprising, because it was the Labor government, after all, who termed this industry a sunset industry when it was previously a government. There is so much we can be proud of as to what we've achieved within this portfolio, particularly when we reviewed last year. My colleague Shane Arden mentioned the Primary Growth Partnership. We now have the largest expenditure in primary sector innovation that we have ever seen. That program was launched only 18 months ago. We now have $475 million worth of projects underway today. That is a remarkable investment in 18 months. So Annie King may criticise that. There is no farmer in New Zealand, I can assure her, who would criticise this Nationals government to the primary production sector and to innovation. A lot of talk around an emissions trading scheme last year, as we changed the emissions trading scheme we had inherited from the Labor government, made it far more practical, far more affordable, and we did face the issue with our farmers about the introduction of agriculture. We are reviewing that position at the moment, as we promised we would do, but let it be known Labor Party's position on the emissions trading scheme from Charles Chauvel, the previous spokesperson. He has said if the Labor Party is elected at the next election, not likely I acknowledge, but if it is, they will bring agriculture in immediately, and rather than grandparenting any of the emissions to agriculture, they'll land that immediately on the farmers of New Zealand. So when they go to the polls, I want New Zealand farmers to realise that. Animal welfare has been a big issue for a long period of time, and Mr Arden is quite right that we have now given it the largest increase of expenditure at $8.2 million that sector has seen for years. We have had a situation in Southland where MAF and federated farmers had an issue around the conducting of a particular animal welfare inquiry. I'm pleased to say the report has now been accepted both by MAF and by federated farmers, and we want to move forward in a constructive manner with federated farmers because we need their assistance, just as we need the assistance of organisations like Beef and Lamb and Dairy NZ, as we collectively make sure we help farmers that get into an unfortunate situation, although if it's a perpetual habit of any farmer, frankly, I don't want those people in our industry. There's talk in the financial review about water. Mr Chairman, that is the greatest competitive advantage this country has, and collectively we have to find ways to better store that water, to better allocate that water, and in allocating that water, farmers then have a duty to utilise it far more efficiently than they do at the moment, and with water will come intensification. So again, we need to be prepared to invest money in science to allow the agricultural scientists of this country to find mechanisms by which we can intensify, we can increase productivity and profitability on farms, and yet we can mitigate the environmental impacts of such intensification. The final issue I want to talk about is probably the biggest risk this sector faces, and it's the risk around biosecurity. And day by day, 175,000 items come into New Zealand. Every one of those is potentially a danger. So all of us in this sector have a duty and a responsibility, and that applies to members of Her Majesty's opposition, to do what we can to have the most efficient biosecurity system in the world. Because if we do have a breach of our biosecurity borders, and we've had one in the last 12 months around kiwi fruit, we have to acknowledge then we've got to move quickly to try and contain that and do what we can to mitigate the effect of any biosecurity incursion.
Members, the question is that the report of the Primary Production Committee on the 2009-10 financial review of the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry be noted. Those of that opinion will say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. The ayes have it. I understand that the next financial review members wish to debate is the financial review